This is Antarctica, a 3-kilometre thick fortress of ice. But look at this 18th century map, published 66 years before the continent was even discovered. It shows a massive sea where there should be glaciers. And why is New Zealand connected to this massive landmass? My name's Dr. Henry Patton, and today we're diving into a masterpiece in geographical deduction. This is the Carte des Terres Australes by Philippe Buache, geographer to the French king. It was first published in 1757, pieced together from stories and sightings made by explorers and pirates across several centuries. Now, many world maps before this did feature a massive southern continent called Terra Australis. It was Aristotle in the 4th century BC who first claimed that the continents of the northern hemisphere must be balanced by an unknown landmass in the south. So what makes this French map different? The difference is that while no one had yet sailed south of the Antarctic Circle, the map was speculation built on logic. Even though Buache didn't have all the pieces to the puzzle, he still had enough data to construct a continent that remarkably made some kind of sense. Buache annotated the map with the many observations he used, so let's take a closer look. One major line of evidence Buache leaned upon was that of the 1738 expedition led by fellow Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Charles Bouvet de Lozier. On the 1st of January 1739, through murky fog, de Lozier saw land, the first ever confirmed south of the 50-degree parallel. Convinced he had reached Aristotle's Terra Australis, de Lozier named it Cap de la Circoncision. For 12 days they tried to land or circumnavigate the discovery. But conditions were never favourable, and he was thus unable to prove if the land was connected to a larger continent. In fact, de Lozier had discovered the world's most remote island, now called Bouvet Island. Unfortunately, the coordinates he shared on his return were so inaccurate that the land was lost again until its rediscovery 69 years later. Within the vicinity of this cape, de Lozier had also sighted many sizable icebergs, up to 3 leagues or 17 kilometres in circumference and 300 feet or 91 metres high. Buache highlighted these in the corner space of the map, as the presence of such large icebergs at 52 degrees south was key evidence to support his vision of a frozen sea at the South Pole. Buache's big mistake was not understanding glaciers. He hypothesized that giant rivers flowed south, froze, and broke off into icebergs. But here's the unbelievable part. His theoretical Terres Antarctiques bears a startling resemblance to the mountainous topography beneath the Antarctic ice sheet today. This fact has fueled cartographical conspiracy theories that Buache wasn't guessing at all. Some speculate he copied secret maps drawn by a highly developed and ancient civilization that saw Antarctica before it was buried in ice. Tales of massive icebergs deep in the Southern Ocean were well known prior to de Lozier's expedition, also coming from those trying to round Cape Horn in South America. Buache came to rely on information from anyone sailing far south, including the 2 notorious English pirates Edward Davis and Bartholomew Sharp. In 1687, Davis had been carrying out raids on Spanish settlements along the coasts of Mexico, Peru and Chile. While attempting to round Cape Horn on his route home, severe storms forced Davis south to almost 63 degrees. It was here that they met a stream of icebergs, about 400 or 500 feet high, or around 120 to 150 metres. Davis states, "We sounded near them but found no ground, so that it may reasonably be concluded that they were afloat, and perhaps reached as deep into the water as their height was above it." 7 years earlier, in 1680, Bartholomew Sharp had also been pillaging the Spanish in the Pacific. According to Sharp's diary, they faced a similar fate while rounding Cape Horn, with foul weather compelling their ship far to the south. On the 17th of November, they encountered islands of ice, the biggest of which were 2 leagues or 11 kilometres around. As well as the repeated encounters with giant icebergs by sailors, Buache used further historical sightings of land from past centuries to speculate on the outline of his Terres Antarctiques. Just a decade after the discovery of the New World by Columbus in 1492, some geographers believed the famous Portuguese explorer Amerigo Vespucci had reached Terra Australis. This early sighting of land is described in a letter supposedly written by Vespucci a few years later. Here, he recounts that during his 3rd voyage, some 500 leagues or nearly 2,800 kilometres from their last port in South America, and at 52 degrees south, they encountered a dangerous storm. And while going along in the tempest, on the 7th day of April we sighted new land, about 20 leagues of which we skirted, and we found it all barren coast, and we saw in it neither harbour nor inhabitants. I believe this was because the cold was so great that nobody in the fleet could withstand or endure it. Another observation of land Buache used was that of the English explorer Sir Francis Drake. Having sailed through the Straits of Magellan near Cape Horn in 1578, Drake found himself blown south by a series of storms. At 57 degrees south, they encountered an island where they could shelter, remaining there for 3 to 4 days. The ship's chaplain gave a good description and sketch of the island, describing it as around 30 miles north to south, almost square, and with a lake at its centre. Nevertheless, this safe harbour they called Elizabeth Island was never found again. In the decade before Buache started drawing this map, Abel Tasman and his Dutch crew became the first Europeans to reach New Zealand. But by failing to recognise this discovery as an island, many cartographers, including Buache, optimistically connected it to a hypothesised southern continent. It would take another century before this mistake was identified and corrected. The height of the mountains Tasman noted in New Zealand was also compelling evidence for Buache that could explain how such large rivers could flow south towards the pole. Just a few decades after Buache published this theoretical map, Captain James Cook's second voyage around the world effectively consigned the map back to the drawing board. Tasked with circumnavigating the globe as far south as possible, Cook sailed over much of Buache's theorised continent, including rounding New Zealand, without ever finding new land. However, numerous icebergs were still encountered. By also becoming the first person to cross the Antarctic Circle, Cook proved there was no Terra Australis in temperate latitudes, thus permanently reshaping the world map. Buache's theoretical continent only appeared on one other map, published by fellow Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Louis Clouet. The overlaid route of Cook's voyage emphatically highlights the numerous inaccuracies of Buache's coastline. In January 1820, Admiral Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen finally became the first ever person to sight Antarctica. While leading a Russian expedition circumnavigating the entire continent, Bellingshausen observed an ice shore of extreme height that has been interpreted as the Fimbul ice shelf of Queen Maud Land. Unfortunately, Philippe Buache died in 1773, 47 years before Bellingshausen's first sighting of the new continent. He never knew how wrong Captain Cook proved him to be, or how close he came to approximating the geography beneath the ice. To have deduced the shape of an entire continent from disparate sailors' tales and scientific logic still remains an incredible milestone in cartography. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe for more map myths. Speaking of icy mysteries, if you want to find out how cartographers used to map the North Pole, check out this video right here.